Thank you for tuning in to Beyond Evidence. We also want to thank Tom Sheldon with Northeast Georgia Business Radio. And now part 2 of GBI Undercover.
Cities that have a very large workforce, the numbers just go up exponentially. And then you don't only have the employees that are suing, you have people just sue cities. Counties have an immunity to a certain amount of money that the state does. State has immunity, counties have immunity, cities don't have that. So cities can be sued. Yep. Cities can be sued and can literally be bankrupted.
Have you seen that happen?
Very, very close. There was a city that had a small airport, and there was an accident, and there was at least one death, I think maybe 2. The airport was sued, and the city was sued.
In Georgia?
In Georgia. They tried to sue the county, but couldn't sue the county for it. So they went after the city. They fought that in court for years and years. And it's been used to try to get some tort reform for helping cities out because cities should have the same immunity. But right now they don't. In my 17 years, you can imagine. I mean, I've seen it all. And almost every month you get served. Somebody's suing us for something else, you know. We keep saying, and I'm going to say again because I don't want people to think that anybody's trying to not be responsible and pay for somebody who's really, truly been injured. But most of what we're talking about are people that are playing it. Cities have gotten smarter. There's cameras all over the place now. It's not as easy as it used to be. But people have also gotten smarter. And they're pretty clever about where the accident happens and making sure that they play it up.
Because you can have, like, at your library, you could have somebody trip and fall inside the library.
Yeah.
You can have a officer that's just sitting there with the car and somebody bangs into the officer and says it's the city's fault.
Yep.
So sometimes it's not just workman's comp as it is any action in the city that they feel they need to because people can be sue happy.
Yeah. I mean, we one time had a man that ultimately he didn't pursue the lawsuit, but he was just driving along, and Auburn still has farms, and he had his grandson in the truck with him. The man actually came to city council. This is, open records. He came to city council and he spoke under citizen comments. He wanted us to pay for damage to his truck because as he was driving along, he looked over and saw the cows and saw some baby calves and said to his grandson, "Oh, look." And so they're both looking at the cows and the baby cows, and he ran off the road into the ditch. And that was the city's fault. The city needs to buy him new tires and fix his truck. And, he's standing before me at the bench, and I'm just like, okay.
I've seen you several times have that look that you're just like, most of us would probably come out of our chair, but okay, we'll take that under advisement.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just hear every story under the sun, but people do have this thought that, well, you're the city. You're the city. You can pay for it. And oh my gosh, if we had to pay out on every single thing that people sued us for, it'd be a disaster. But the truth is, a lot of times the attorneys will say, we'd like you to settle out of court.
Because I guess they add up the expenses from the attorneys, because attorneys charge, $300 to $500, maybe sometimes $600 an hour now, times any experts, times anything else. So it's like a bean counter.
Yeah.
But sometimes those beans can matter.
Well, yeah. And they don't want you to go before a jury trial. I mean, that's really, because, say, for instance, depending on who the person is, but if you have a granny that says that, she fell and she got hurt, and she stands in front of the jury and she cries and talks about how terrible it is she can't play with her grandchildren anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The injury may not be real, but those jurors are going to feel sorry for her.
Right.
And they're probably going to agree for everything that her attorney asks for, so
Right.
it would be better not to put her before a jury.
Well, also, once we get the evidence, let's say we film the grandma, not saying that lightly,
Yeah.
because I am a grandma. Let's say the grandma is jumping on the trampoline with the 4-year-old and
Right.
she's caught doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That alone is embarrassing for the complainant. That is like, okay, we're going to go to trial. Says, okay, you claimed all this, but here you are riding this roller coaster, or here
Right.
you are dancing at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, or here you are having an affair, okay, because we don't know about your marital life. We're just filming you.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that a lot of times when I see the complaint, because that's how we work it, you've seen it in the office.
Yeah.
We'll bring in the complaint, and I hope that's educational for y'all to
Yeah, of course.
read in depthness. And of course, they never shut off their social media.
Yeah.
So you know where they're going and what they're doing most of the time. But you can even go into their yoga class and their spinning classes, because they'll advertise it. They won't take the attorney's advice and not go off social media while they're going through this.
Mm-hmm.
So social media is the digital print. Then they don't realize that, like, I've been serving papers longer than I've been doing PI work. So we're allowed to have subpoena power, to actually take a subpoena to a court date or to a deposition and subpoena the digital imprint of where they've been going, what they've been doing. Although we don't know who's behind the phone,
Right.
we can guess due to their patterns. Did they go to Vail and go skiing? No, we weren't
Right.
there, but what did you do? Because they have camera equipment in Vail. So there's all these cameras equipments that you can pull.
Yeah.
You also have, surgeries going wrong of employees. And of course, those people are probably sick too, but are they sick for 20 years?
Right.
And do you need to pay them throughout the rest of their life?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. The severity and the length is really important to consider. And because it may be that you're planning on paying for the rest of their lives, and 5 years later, they're out there doing the exact same job for somebody else, in which case they shouldn't be collecting.
Right.
Yeah.
So overall, how do you feel about working? A lot of people that work the workman's comp cases get upset because they get upset at the person of like, how much are they asking for?
Yeah.
Because it's never a small number.
Right.
I mean, when I started working the workman's comp cases and the insurance fraud cases, it would make me so upset.
Yeah.
Knowing how much we spend on insurance now, not like a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, our insurance a long
They're
time ago.
outrageous. Yeah, it's outrageous.
So every action and reaction to a complaint matters.
Yeah, sitting on the insurance board, I mean, you just see the numbers. The thing for us was that we also got to see the actual cases and learn the history of it and the people and the consequences, and then see how it affected the entire pool. So, you got to see it from beginning to end. It truly does. It makes a huge difference. I mean, the cities that have good safety protocols in place, and they have good safety committees in place. Now, you still have accidents that happen, and you still have workman comp claims, but they're far less if you have good oversight in place.
Well, a lot of times, too, I don't want to overlook this. Sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes the complainant or sometimes the person suing wants that rule to change, wants somebody's standard operating procedure to change. Like the situations we've had with the schools and stuff, they want a procedure changed. And sometimes suing somebody gets their attention to say, fiberglass windows in buses, or maybe we need. So a lot of times when you sue, you literally have to get to the heart of the person and understand, because sometimes
What's
they don't
the motivation?
need one.
Yeah.
Right. What is really behind? Do you need an alarm that's quicker? Or so sometimes things change. You know, I don't know if the hot coffee from McDonald's and the lady, their coffee's not so hot after she sued, which was a big lawsuit. And so a lot of times, too, people will deter you from suing a big company. But sometimes it is the rules and the regulations that... But once you started getting involved with seeing some of the insurance and stuff, did you see any improvement of what they were trying to do, or did it just still become...
No, that's why when my eyes were open to, hey, there is a resource that's not being utilized, it's why I feel pretty passionate.
I know you do.
About making sure that cities in particular understand that, no, you do have another tool, and you should be using this tool, because it even if out of a year it saves one case,
which could be millions.
Could be millions.
I mean, millions.
Yeah.
Like 10 million that you don't have to pay out of the coffer.
But going back to what you said before, even say it was $200,000 that you end up saving, it's more than the money. It's the mindset that the other employees that are thinking about doing the same thing, because he got away with it or she got away with it.
Offense and defense.
That you say that all the time, and
I do.
Such a good saying.
I do.
Because it really does. It puts a second thought in their mind. Ooh, wait a minute. Maybe I don't want to play that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which makes me just fly straight into, we can call it new cases and new times. We've been getting a bunch of phone calls for heirs, have we not?
Yeah.
To find heirs. And I want to tell everybody, please, please, please think about not being buried. In other words, what else can you be?
Not being cremated.
Please, please. So I'd like to go into heirs a little bit. Okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Because I got 3 phone calls this morning. And what it is this is what's happening, is people don't realize that if you do not have a will, and you do not have somebody acting on your behalf as you're passing, all of your assets, like all of them can go to the state of Georgia. And I'm going to talk about this one particular case because it is public and we need to know. And if anybody came forward, there's a reward. There is a chief of police that used to be of Winder. A long time ago, I guess 2014, 15, 16, he passed away. Mr. Moon, Gerald Moon. He was our chief of police of Winder. He did not have a son. He didn't have a sibling. His parents are gone. So we are literally putting a proposal together to exhume his body, to get any DNA that we can get from his bones, if they're there, and actually reaching out to a first, second, third, or fourth cousin, wherever they are, because his assets are in a lot, and we have a time frame to do it. Otherwise, the state of Georgia gets it. So, it goes like this. When you pass away, if you don't have a will, everything goes to your children, your biological children.
Right.
If you have no biological children, it goes to your parents. If your parents aren't living, it goes to your siblings. This is what I've been told. I don't know if that's changed, but usually that's the structure I need to find the people. And then from there, you go to first cousins and... Yeah,
so there's like a hierarchy that you have to follow.
Right, biologically.
And it goes by blood. Relatives,
right, and so the attorney's firm or the people finding the heir, it is their responsibility to do due diligence on finding these people, and so we're dealing with a whole lot. And in that being said, I'm hoping within a couple of months we find somebody that, of course, then knocking on their door and telling them about the check, they'll probably be like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
They're going to think I'm a scam. So my goal is to find a procedure where we do take your DNA. And I think it's 3andMe, and there's 5 data banks that it can go in. And hopefully, if you haven't assigned your assets or heirs or stuff, it can be assigned. But we've been getting those phone calls a lot.
Yeah.
And I bet everybody didn't know everything goes to the state of Georgia.
Yeah. And if you're cremated, there's no way of us going and collecting that DNA.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you may not know that you're related to this person because we've searched really hard on that case.
Yeah.
And so I am putting it out there that if anybody's related to Gerald Moon, please call us and let us know at Martinelli Investigations.
Yes.
But a will can just be handwritten on a napkin. I mean, you can literally write your wishes down on a napkin. I mean, you do need to seek attorney's advice and stuff like that, but people need to, think about that.
Yeah.
Unless they do want everything to go to the state of Georgia.
Yeah, why? Why would you want that?
I know, I'm sure some family members would sure like that. And but before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to share, Linda, about your new cases or your newfound job and how you're having fun and not so much fun when you sit in a car for I mean, it's not all fun and Coke floats and coffee and because I'm sure.
I mean, to give insight into doing a surveillance and you may be on it for 12 hours is you really can't pull off when you're watching maybe a house or a vehicle or a person. They may walk outside, pick something up and walk back inside, and you've just looked down and you're reading your notes and you've missed it. So you have to just be so diligent about the whole time that you're doing surveillance that you're watching. You're actually watching.
That's why I always like to have two because you have to go eat, you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to walk around and make sure you don't get your legs cramped up and
and
then you have to swap positions because you're incognito or you're trying to.
Yeah. Depending on your neighborhoods, I think it's probably a lot tougher now because people are very hyper vigilant about what's going on in their neighborhood. Like, I don't know, probably 2 of the last 3 surveillances that I've done, I've had neighbors come up to me.
And have whole conversations with you.
Yeah. So it just depends on where it is and everything. Then the other thing is just when you start really studying people, I've always studied people. I find people very interesting and fascinating. I could be a people watcher, I am amazed at some of the things that you see that people do, and it's just part of what they do, right? They don't think anybody's watching them or
especially
looking at them,
Especially you and women. I mean, the last thing they're going to think, they may think you're nosy or you're a Karen or whatever, but they're never going to think you're Linda Blechinger, the former mayor, being a private investigator, filming their every move because they filed for workman's comp at a swimming company and the chemicals made them sick, but yet they're flying to Florida.
Yeah.
And you're actually flying with them. Remember I had a case a couple of weeks ago I had to fly?
Yeah.
I literally, but there again, she didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? And so I got all the way onto the plane, and this was after my surgery. I got all on the plane. This was, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. I literally told Delta I couldn't fly. They're like, because I had front row, remember?
Yeah.
So I had front row, and of course she didn't get on with her boyfriend or anything. I'm like, why am I going to take this flight? So I'm looking at the lady, and she's like, you can't fly. I said, no, I can't fly. So for 20 minutes, it was like, oh my God, why can't you fly? What's wrong with you? And I said, look, I just need to get. So after that, they were fine, and I got off the flight and everything. But there again, person didn't follow anybody.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's just the way that it goes. But that's surveillance tells us what is actually happening, not necessarily what our client may want to hear or think they're going to hear,
And lastly, I'll close with this. A lot of times you will film somebody to prove what they can do.
Yeah.
Like when they file for divorce and all of a sudden they say, oh, I can't work, I can't do this, but yet they're singing till 2 or 3 in the morning with karaoke and stuff. So it's like, okay, what can you do? Mm-hmm. You better watch out. You don't know who would be watching you. Please contact us by our website, martinelliinvestigations.com. Martinelli ends in an I. Investigation starts with an I, so that's 2 I's with an S on the end. Our email is MII, and then Georgia spelled out, GEORGIAPI @gmail.com. And please call us anytime at 770-337-3999, 770-337-3999 for a free consultation. Thanks so much and have a great peachy day.